Hello YouTube antique radio collectors. This is Across the Dial. I'm known in this area in southwestern Ontario as a guy that does a lot of vintage audio equipment, tubes, guitar amps, that type of stuff. That's really mainly what I restore. But I'll tell you about it. It all started for me with radios like this. 5-tube AC/DC chassis radios. This is kind of a really nice one. This has this Beatland, it's a General Electric Canadian model. It's a CL500. I just picked this up, and what I'm finding these days is the vintage tube radios from the 30s, 40s into the 50s are going so cheap. There's a lot of collectors who are selling off their collections. Some are restored nicely, some aren't. I'm finding a lot of this, like this one here was a disaster inside, but it was very cheap. Now you're looking at the result of about 4 hours work. And what you see here are new resistors completely through it except for one. Just didn't have that value, and it's the last thing I'm going to do. And completely new capacitors. It was filled with these wax type of caps, the Aerovoxes. There's an open winding on this, on the output transformer. I mean, there's nothing coming out of this. Here's the original Aerovox electrolytic that was inside the chassis, and this one from maybe the 60s piggybacked on top of it to try to get it working. But the real problem with these sets are the resistors. There's one of the larger ones. I'll just show you a couple examples here. Literally baked to death. Carbon resistors. This is a very tight chassis. This is a compact radio for its day. Compact table radio. 5-tube. It uses the octal tubes. It's 35Z5, 50L6. The metal tubes. 2 IF cans, pretty simple. Super het receiver. Clean the chassis up a little bit. Problem with these is they got hot and everything baked. And that's probably what killed the output transformer. So I put another one in, actually from another similar GE set that I parted out. Oops, you can't go back in. And then I worked on it, and what I found is as I went from stage to stage, I started the rectifier tube. There are two 15 ohm resistors here, baked, blown. I don't know how this thing, it must have just like died a horrible death. Anyway, 215 ohm, I use the metal film resistors, and this is really important. If you put carbon resistors back in this, it's going to die. It's going to overheat, they're going to drift. I know these aren't exactly period correct, but I believe these radios are made to play. They're made to listen to. And when I get them working, I play them for hours and hours in my shop every day. So put in new filters and put in a terminal board. Here, a couple of new MEIC filters. These are all orange dip type of capacitors, Cornells. They'll last forever in this. The mica caps don't need to be changed, although I had one. I'm actually in the habit with these. I test every cap. The mica cap that was here, it was actually open and it was affecting the audio, so replace that one with a Mylar one. And it'll be a reliable, good working set, all the components and tolerance. And you know, the most reliable part of these sets probably are the tubes. They're all the original GE tubes in this, and they all test in the 70 to 85% range, so there's no reason to change them. And of course the cord was very brittle, so I replaced it with a new cord. And an important thing on these tube radios, polarized cord. Make sure that the hot lead is on the power switch. If the power switch is being used to switch the common connections inside of it, the B- line, swing them over to a terminal strip. You might have to extend a few wires. Switch the hot lead. Use the neutral lead on the plug, which is this one, the wide blade. Make sure that it's B-, and make sure that you have a safety cap between there and the chassis. I test every one, I run it, I make sure the chassis isn't hot, and this one, if you have polarized outlets correctly wired, you will never get a shock from it. Anyway, thanks for watching and listening.